You ever get that feeling that something's missing from the world around us? Well, turns out you're not wrong. We are, in a very real sense, living in a world haunted by ghosts. The ghosts of absolutely colossal animals that vanished thousands of years ago. And they left behind a legacy we're only now starting to piece together. To figure it out, we've got to start with a very strange 13,000-year-old mystery.
So yeah, think of this explainer as a bit of a detective case. The crime scene? It's our modern ecosystem. The mystery is a disappearance that happened 13,000 years ago and completely changed our planet. And our first clue? Well, it's a very, very weird piece of fruit.
Okay, get a load of this thing. The Osage orange. It's big, it's lumpy, it's super tough, and it's packed with these big seeds. And it just falls off the tree and rots. You know, from an evolutionary point of view, it makes absolutely no sense. There's no animal in North America today that can really eat it or spread its seeds around. So, what's the deal? Why is it even here?
And here's the kicker. The Osage orange isn't some kind of evolutionary failure, it's an orphan. The animals it grew up with, the giant creatures that were supposed to be its partners, they're gone. They've been extinct for 13,000 years.
So to really solve this puzzle, we have to jump in our time machine. We're going back, way back to the Pleistocene epoch, to a world that was run by absolute giants. These are the missing pieces of our puzzle.
And we are talking about a vast stretch of time. The age of these megafauna, these giant animals, lasted for millions of years. This was a time when huge animals weren't the exception, they were the absolute rule. And then, it all came to this sudden, dramatic stop right around 13,000 years ago.
And when we say giants, we really, really mean it. Let me introduce you to one of our prime suspects for that Osage orange mystery, the woolly mammoth. Just try to picture it. An animal standing 13 feet tall at the shoulder, weighing more than 6 tons. This wasn't some rare mythical beast, it was a common feature of the landscape. Or what about this guy, the giant ground sloth? Now you gotta forget the slow, sleepy sloths we know today. These things could be 20 feet long and weigh over 4 tons. That's as heavy as a modern elephant. They were just these massive, walking eating machines.
And the variety was it's mind-blowing. This is a glyptodon. It's basically a walking tank, a car-sized armadillo with a spiked club for a tail. I mean, come on. These weren't just bigger versions of today's animals. They were entirely different creatures, playing roles in the ecosystem we can barely imagine now.
Okay, so this is where it all starts to click. These animals weren't just kind of hanging out in their environment. No way. They were active engineers. They were the planet's gardeners, its architects. They were shaping the entire world around them in huge, profound ways.
And this brings us to this really cool concept, an ecological anachronism. It's the official scientific term for our mystery fruit. See, an anachronism is something that belongs to a different time period. And that's exactly what plants like the Osage orange are. They're evolutionary relics, left behind after their animal partners disappeared.
And spreading seeds was probably their most important job as gardeners. I mean, think about it. For a big, tough fruit, you need a big animal with a big mouth and a pretty robust digestive system. A mammoth would just swallow the fruit whole, wander for miles and miles, and then, well, it would deposit the seeds in a brand new spot, complete with its own personal pile of fertilizer. It was literally the world's best delivery service.
But their impact went so much further than just planting seeds. By crashing through forests, they carved out pathways. By knocking over trees, they actually created and maintained grasslands. Their giant bodies moved nutrients across entire continents. Even things like digging for water created ponds that countless other smaller animals depended on. They were the engineers holding the whole thing together.
And then, in what amounts to a geological blink of an eye, they were gone. The gardeners vanished. The architects disappeared. The world was suddenly and just shockingly empty of its biggest and most influential animals. Just let this number sink in for a second. In North America, something like 72% of all large mammal genera, and we're not just talking species, we're talking about entire groups of related species, went extinct. This wasn't just losing a few key players, it was a catastrophic collapse of an entire class of life. A total wipeout.
So that intricate web of life, it was basically severed. The ecosystem back then was incredibly complex and robust, with all these giant players doing their jobs. Our world today is, well, it's a simplified version. It's less resilient because those key roles, the gardeners, the architects, are all vacant. The positions are open, but there's no one big enough to fill them.
Which brings us right back to today.
But now we can see our world a little differently, can't we? We can start to see the ghosts these giants left behind in our ecosystem. We can hear their fading echo.
And right here, this is the solution to our whole mystery. That Osage orange, it was waiting for a mammoth or a mastodon. The pawpaw fruit, with its big seeds, it was a favorite snack of the giant ground sloth. And yeah, even the avocado, with a pit that's way too big for any animal today to swallow, it was likely eaten by an extinct elephant relative called the gomphthere. They're all ghost plants, just waiting for partners that are never coming back.
I came across this quote, and it hits the nail on the head. We live in a world of ghosts, a shadow of a former grandeur. The world we see, as beautiful and wild as it is really just a shadow of what it once was.
So this is it. This is the diminishing legacy of the prehistoric giants. It's not just about cool skeletons in a museum. It's about the living, breathing plants that got left behind, the landscapes that are simpler because they're gone, and all these broken connections in the web of life that we're still trying to figure out.
And that leaves us with one last big question. Once you start looking for these ghosts, you start seeing them everywhere. It really makes you wonder, what other invisible echoes of a lost world are shaping the reality we see every single day?